Good morning, everybody, and despite the lack of yellow ties here on the Celtic Way, it is transfer deadline day. My name is Ryan McGinley. This morning, I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by Tony Haggerty at aHaggerty10 at the Ryan McGinley on my X handle. Tony, how you doing? How you feeling transfer deadline day? We're expecting 2 signings, maybe more, potential surprises. Got the small matter of a Rangers game at the weekend. Still excited over the Champions League draw. Give me your emotions.
Up there, somewhere. Ryan, I think most Celtic supporters are up there and want to get scraped off the ceiling. As I said yesterday during the Champions League draw reaction, I think we're just basking in this. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? And for a while it looked as if nothing was going to happen. Plethora of activity. Is it ideal to do it all in the last few days? No, but it is very exciting now. You are seeing Brendan Rodgers put his stamp on his football team, what he wants in and what he wants going out the door. And there's rumours also today that Tomoki Iwata and Mike Nawrocki could end up leaving by the close of play today as well. Tomoki Iwata has been rumoured to be going to Birmingham. So
everybody's rumoured to go to Birmingham at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, yeah. But I love it. It's, as I say, it's not great for the nerves. The nerves have been shredded the whole of the transfer window, but great to see the club do some wonderful pieces of business with Arne Engels coming in, Engels in particular, and Arne Trusty. I said it yesterday, square pegs, square holes. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I've made that mistake as well. I don't know why I've made that mistake. I don't know if it's one of those sort of Mandela effects that are going on that people are calling him Arne Trusty, Auston Trusty. If you think about Steve Austin, that's how I remember.
Yes, what did I call him? Arne there? Sorry, yeah.
Arne. No, you're all good.
Auston Trusty, yes. Well, the name's on the headline as well, so yeah, Auston Trusty, my bad. But yeah, I'm just excited to see what the transfer window brings now, Ryan. You're in that great position where, we're now making quality additions, so absolutely brilliant. And and you're just, Sunday can't come quick enough now, Ryan. You've had a favourable Champions League draw. You've got some quality in the door. Hopefully they can play some part in the game on Sunday. I probably won't expect them to start. But you've got the 100% backing from the crowd and a rocking Celtic Park against your rivals, the first derby of the season. Just bring it on. Everything about it's been good news week this week after after a time when. But I think you and I spoke on Monday after hearing Brendan Rodgers and watching Brendan Rodgers on Sunday in the aftermath of the after-match press conference at Paisley. And I stated then, I just felt that he was so relaxed. He was a man that knew there was things happening. And it's come to fruition, hasn't it? I think he couldn't allude to everything that was going on, but he was certainly signposting it, wasn't he? Because he was relaxed, he was cracking jokes. He was sort of saying, judges by the end, kept that mantra that he's saying, judges by the end of the window. And I think that's fair to say that Brendan Rodgers has came good on those words and his promises, and obviously been helped by the board as well.
It's quite interesting because he could have chose to not say all of that, knowing that these deals were in the pipeline. Yeah. I think that's a measure of the man and the manager and the individual that he went and said it anyway, because he wanted to make it clear that the recruitment wasn't good enough in this window, despite it finally coming to fruition in these past couple of days. Just before we get started and talk about the individual recruitment that's going to be coming through today, I just want to bring everybody's attention to the bottom of the screen. If you want to support our work just that little bit more by joining our YouTube members channel, it's just £2.99 a month. You'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. There will be a video coming out over the weekend. Tony's latest Grand Old Pod, or the Grand Old Team pod, will be coming out on Saturday morning, so that'll be available 6 hours earlier if you are a YouTube member. So if you want to get involved in that, then please do so. Tony, let's talk about transfers first. I think we'll do it in chronological order in terms of transfers, Champions League draw, and the small matter of the Rangers game at the weekend. We'll have Brendan Rodgers to listen to later on this afternoon. We'll see what he has to say about the transfer window, specifically the business that's been done in the next few hours. 2 definite names that are coming to the club, it would seem. if Auston Trusty can get his work permit issues sorted, you'd think that wouldn't be too much of a problem. Celtic, especially since leaving the European Union, have been better with work permits than before. I remember there was red tape over. I know he didn't turn out to be a great player for Celtic, but with Bernabei, there was potential red tape. But the fact that they were a non-EU country made it a bit easier to obtain one of those. Auston Trusty still needs one because even though he played, he was playing for Sheffield United, he's still an American citizen, so he needs to get that finalised. But that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Arne Engels seems all but done. We're now waiting for the announcement. I think they're both travelling to Scotland today. Basically, Tony, how excited are you with these two signings? £17 million has been spent reportedly on these two signings to come to Celtic. How excited are you?
Oh yeah, I'm just more excited at the fact. I'm more delighted and excited at the fact that the manager's got what he wanted, Brian. The manager had been saying for long and weary, and we'd spoken for long and weary that he'd earned the right to have these things and get these things.
Yep.
And if you're going to go into this Champions League, and you look, that draw vindicates the business that you're doing just now, Ryan. That's going to make you competitive in that section. You were, you were never not going to be competitive, but you know what I mean? You can be more than competitive, or you feel you can be more than competitive now. That sprinkling of quality, and these are players that the manager's clearly targeted. He sees something in them. I trust his judgment implicitly in that, Ryan, so he's wanted these guys, Engels in particular. And the great thing about it was it was a kind of movable feast yesterday, and they had contingency plans should things fall through. There was other names there. There was Bogic, there was Sanchez, and you were being kept up to date with what was going on in regards to those guys transferring to Celtic or switching to Celtic as well. So I think Celtic kind of knew this week what they were all about. Rodgers was all over it, and he was directing traffic on it, and it was just a question of doing the deals, which is what he was kind of. He seemed like a man who was content on Sunday about what was about to unfold this week, but let everybody know that those firing those warning shots that this won't happen again. We won't get into this state again, and scrambling about in the last week trying to conclude major pieces of business and getting guys in that fit his jigsaw. I think, and I wrote it the other day about ripping up the whole recruitment policy. There will have to be other staff members come in, Ryan, a director of football or a head of recruitment, and get all this sorted for the next transfer window in January, and be a bit more secure in your business and try and get stuff done early. I think that's what the manager wants, and certainly that's what he's going to try and see happening going forward. Just rip that, whatever's happened up, you rip that template up and you do it again so differently. But I'm just delighted because I think everybody feared it was going to be, we tried so hard, but it was too late and we couldn't get anything over the line, didn't they? Because clubs weren't willing to part with their assets because they didn't have enough time to get somebody in to replace them. But it's clear to me that Brendan Rodgers knew that these players were going to get signed, and Celtic have gone out and done their best. A bit of negotiation here and there, I get that, but once it was indicated that Celtic were willing to go to 10 million for Arne Engels and they wanted 11, you knew that deal was going to get done, because you don't go 10, you don't go 11. You don't pull out at 10, Ryan. Basically, that's what I'm saying. This was a player the manager wanted. If you're serious
about the past couple of days, if you're serious with that amount of money, you're going to spend just that little bit extra in order to get your man. What's 10 million if you can give 11 million or 12 million? You're not going to stop at that. I know it's a lot of money for Celtic to be parting with. It will be their record transfer, but it also displays a bit of maturity in the transfer window, in my opinion, and a willingness to back their manager. They're listening to what the manager's saying, whatever the manager's been saying, both in the press conferences, out with the press conferences, to the board. They're listening because they're giving Brendan Rodgers what he wants. That's been sort of underlined in all of these transfer stories with Engels whenever he's been linked with the club. Brendan Rodgers wants this player. That's the thing. He wanted Adam Idah and he wanted Arne Engels. He's going to get the both of them, and he's going to get Auston Trusty as well, another player that he'll know from down south. So the board are backing their manager, and that's good, because I think a lot of people will say, and quite rightly in my opinion, will say he deserves that backing for the job that he's done so far.
Well, I think you might find as well that the man at the very top might have had a hand in it as well. The Double D, Dermot Desmond, because he is Brendan Rodgers is Dermot Desmond's man, isn't he? So
yeah, very much so.
I dare say there's been a conversation there as well at some point throughout all of this process. Don't care how it's come about, but Celtic have managed to turn their trousers upside down and shake out some loose change and funded these deals. So long with that continuing, and I don't think that will be the end, Ryan. Myself and Joe and Hamish will be on at some point tonight, probably from 9 o'clock onwards, and we'll take you through the last couple of hours, and hopefully there'll be some more activity, Ryan. But I think Celtic are still actively trying to get another midfielder in for a start, aren't they? And we shall see what happens with that. But I think they're still very much active. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Luke McCowan from Dundee coming, Ryan, for that Scottish quota. There's still whisperings that Celtic are monitoring that one.
That's one that could get done quite quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the handy thing with that one is probably could get done quite quickly, because you know exactly what the kind of ballpark figure that Dundee want. It's round about the million mark, just over the million mark, isn't it? Because I believe that they've knocked back Hibs, who I think went as high as $750,000. So I think Dundee are holding out for more than $1 million. And people will dispute the toss about this all-encompassing phrase, not Celtic class. Luke McCowan's a very good player, and you can't get enough very good players in your team. And if he did sign for Celtic, I think he'd be a great addition and he would do well. And others are saying they would rather have Lennon Miller from Motherwell. I like Lennon Miller too, but I think Celtic should be all over these kind of things. And even if it came to it, Ryan, signing them and loaning them straight back to their parent clubs, something like that, I would be all for that. But you can't get enough. But I think the very fact they maybe want to sign them for Scottish quota as well, isn't it, for the Champions League squad?
Yeah, I think with Lennon Miller and David Watson, for that matter, I think they're going to give them another year to watch and see how they progress at the club before. I think next summer could be a big one for both of those players. Lennon Miller's only, 17, 18 years old, so Watson's a tiny bit older. These guys can develop at their clubs. Celtic will not be priced out of moves for either of these players within a year, I don't think. So they can watch them. It would be nice and it would be preferable to bring them in and then send them back out on loan again. But it's $1 million or $2 million. Celtic are spending $11 million on a player. They're not gonna be held to ransom by these clubs if they do want them. If they want them, they'll fork out the cash for them in a year's time, in my opinion. I'm
also saying that they should. But these are things you should be all over, Ryan. And certainly looking at
stockpiling.
Yeah, and succession planning, basically.
Yeah.
As I'm saying, Callum McGregor ain't going to be going on forever. So that kind of thing. So I'm thinking out aloud, spitballing a bit, because it's transfer deadline day, and you would think, okay, pieces of jigsaw, especially if you're trying to move other guys out like Tomoki Iwata, which tells you all you need to know about the fact that maybe the manager likes him as a player, but just doesn't see him fitting into his team. And
it's a shame.
Yeah, and lots of Celtic supporters like what Tomoki Iwata brings. But if that's the rumblings, then you certainly think that could be the exit door, for Tomoki Iwata. Mike Rowrowski as well. I think he came and everyone thought, you look the part, and but certainly didn't play the part, and there's something in him that the manager just doesn't like in terms of being a big, rugged stopper of a defender. Auston Trusty, you're seeing, you're connecting dots, aren't you, with that he would partner Cameron Carter-Vickers in defence, two Americans. That would be good. You'll be very aware of Cameron Carter-Vickers and the success he's had at Celtic. And so, can he come in and make a difference? Again, lots of people making the point that Sheffield United struggled badly in the Premiership, conceded a lot of goals last season. I get that, but I'm always the eye test, Ryan. I'll judge a player when I see them in the flesh. Sheffield United just had a nightmare season. It happens with clubs that come up, doesn't it? in the Premier League. It's an unforgiving environment, and if you're not prepared, I'm not saying they weren't prepared, but some teams just can't cope. Many teams come up from the Championship and on a high, and within a few weeks of playing at that level, they're just on a serious downer in a rut, and they can't get out of it. And that happened to Sheffield United last season. So they won't be the first club that suffer like that, and they won't be the last. So, but what Auston Trusty did last season, he gained some valuable experience, Ryan, playing against top-notch players, and former Arsenal player as well. So he's got a lot to bring to the table.
What I would say about Auston Trusty is that you cannot judge him. You cannot judge any player before. Well, I mean, you can, and that's probably one of our jobs, to judge these players before they come. But the real judgment starts once they pull on that green and white jersey. And we've seen players that have struggled. Look at Cameron Carter-Vickers, who I think, in my opinion, is the best Celtic centre half I've ever seen in my 26, nearly 27 years of watching Celtic. Well, not 27 years of watching, but in that time, he's up there with Van Dijk, but Van Dijk didn't have Rangers in the league. It was a different time. Then Cameron Carter-Vickers has got that experience, both Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, and domestically. I think he's the best Celtic centre-back I've seen in my time watching the club. Auston Trusty, I'm not too worried about him, to be honest. I don't know why. I've got this funny feeling that Celtic spending $6 million, they know what they're doing when they're buying this guy. He's not a young player at all. He's 25, going on 26 next year. So, in fact, he's 26. He's just turned 26. He won't turn 27 until next year. So you're buying. It's not a project player, is what people maybe don't want to call Celtic's younger players. This is a guy that's going straight into his prime. Brendan Rodgers was talking about players that playing for Celtic is the end game, and I put that down. And I think with the two signings that are coming in, it won't be the end game for Engels, because I expect 2-3 years out of him before Celtic send him on for 30, 35, 40 million. That's the benchmark, in my opinion. I think they've moved the needle, and then they're going to have to get that fee on the other side. But for Trusty, I see a player that can be there if he puts his mind to it for 5-6 years as Celtic centre back. I'm quite excited about him. I think
if he listens to your compatriot, he'll stay there for a while, won't he? Because you'll tell him how good it is. Cameron Carter-Vickers led a nomadic existence, didn't he, in football terms? I think it was 7 loan spells, was it, before he came to Celtic? Not that anybody thought he was a poor player, just didn't find a home. Some guys just need a home, Ryan. You know, Trusty's been at Arsenal, was purchased for $5 million by Sheffield United. These guys come, and I've said before, if they're fortunate enough to sign for Celtic, they'll come and they'll love it. Matt O'Reilly said it's a club like no other. You know, and I think Celtic is a viable proposition for any footballer within Celtic's financial parameters. If they're going in to try and purchase them, they're giving it serious consideration, Ryan, because they've got so much to offer. Look at that Champions League group. If Celtic come in with a late offer, you're desperate to go to Celtic, aren't you? Because you fancy a crack at that.
Spotlight, isn't it, Tony? Yeah. It's the spotlight, and we will get on to talk. In fact, do you want to go on and talk about that just now, the Champions League draw? If I can just get the graphic back up. But while I get this graphic back up, in fact, here it is just now. That was very quick. I didn't realise how quick that was going to be. It's great when it's already saved to the system. Our full reaction to the Champions League draw is available on the YouTube channel just now. It's also available where you get your podcasts, wherever you get them, on Apple, Spotify, etc. We had a very fresh reaction to the Champions League opponents. We've had time to digest it, think it over, look through potential trips that the Celtic Way could be going on, which is quite exciting as well, may I add. It's a very, very good draw for a lot of things. You've got the glamour of Dortmund, you've got the sights of Atalanta and Bergamo in Italy. But you've also got winnable ties against the likes of Brugge, Young Boys, Bratislava, Dinamo, etc. It's a very exciting draw, Tony, isn't it? It's one that you can't wait for Celtic to sink their teeth into.
Without a doubt. We spoke yesterday. I think in terms of kindness, it's the kindest straw that could have been spat out by the AI computer, whatever, however way they
the magic button, Tony.
That's the magic button. Called. And the magic button, okay. Well done, Cristiano Ronaldo, and hitting the magic button. for Celtic.
Your brown envelope will be in the post.
Yes,
Not that he needs it.
Yeah, correct. But listen, you couldn't have handpicked a better draw, could you? You look at we were talking yesterday, and you have avoided some serious big guns there. And I look at that, and I'm not frightened by any of them, but I'm not underestimating the challenge either, because we caveated that by saying that Celtic's record in Europe in general over the past decade and beyond has been pretty deplorable. So it's something we need to improve on. But the first thing we do is we target every one of those home games, Ryan. And people were saying, take 10 out of 12 or 12 out of 12, all that kind of stuff. My first reaction when I looked at that was, those home games are going to be pivotal to your qualification hopes. And I said I hesitate to use the phrase winnable ties, but I think Celtic can be fiercely competitive in every one of those home games. I don't want to put a total on it, how many points they can get, because we've been in this movie before and thought, yep, that looks okay, that's not a bad group, or that's not a bad section, and they've came a cropper. But I think there's a chance to be as fiercely competitive, ferociously competitive as possible. I think the manager will speak about that today when he's asked, and I think that's why after that draw was made, they get an extra boon from the fact that they were doing these pieces of business, bringing in these players. And it was just a good day to be a Celtic supporter yesterday. There was so much to look forward to. Try to keep a tin lid in it, try to keep your feet in the ground, but excitement was really, really building, wasn't it? Ahead of Sunday, which is just going to be one of those raucous occasions, Ryan. And it's going to be a wonderful day, and I think everybody will be, hopefully, singing from the same hymn sheet on Sunday and make Parkhead that kind of arena of noise, and it will be a cauldron. And there's one thing that for certain, Celtic usually rise to that, the players usually rise to that, and Rangers have found that difficult in derbies. And it would, a win on Sunday will just put the tin lid on a pretty decent week for Celtic, won't it?
Mm-hmm. Just got a bit of breaking news there, Tony, before we talk about the Glasgow derby. It's about a player that we haven't even signed yet, but I think it's important to bring up because we expect him to be a Celtic player by the close of play tonight. Arne Engels has been called up for the Belgium national team squad. So
funny that,
what a day it could be for Arne Engels, signing for his new club record, probably getting paid the most he's paid in his career, and joining Domenico Tedesco's Belgium squad. That's a very exciting dynamic, and it's going to be one of those Carlsberg Fridays for Arne Engels if he does get that deal over the line. That's great news for him, and great news for Celtic if they're signing a Belgium international. I would be putting that in the signing statement if I was Celtic.
Well, your caveat to that is Celtic have shelled out a record fee for Arne Engels. I think that fee's just gone up, Ryan, by virtue of that call-up alone. So
it's been agreed now. Come on.
No, I'm talking about his personal fee, down the line. So, yeah, I think Celtic will be chuffed at that, to be fair. So, projecting forward, you will see a good 2 or 3 years out of Arne Engels. So, yeah, they add to your value, don't you? Obviously being an international. So, great magic. I'm very, very happy at that. Delighted for the young man, and I'm even more delighted at the fact that whenever it was first reported, when Celtic put the initial bid in, the chat was that he was always very keen to come. So I like that. I like that about the player. And you did your piece with Derek Ray. We got a wee bit more meat on the bone with that, and then you checked out all your stuff as well.
That was a great call.
Social media highlight,
call doing that.
Yeah, so and when you hear that a player wants to come, then you think to yourself, great, get him in. So particularly chuffed at that one, and particularly chuffed at Celtic pushed the boat out to land a player that clearly the managers thought has wonderful potential. And we speak about it all the time. That's the elite level in Brendan Rodgers' management. He will make this guy better. And if this guy's already an 11 million rated prospect just now that Celtic have shelled out their record transfer fee for. What's he going to be like a year, 2 years, 3 years from now? If you're lucky enough to have him that time, I'm really excited about the prospect that Arne Engels can be. And like Matt O'Reilly, I'll just enjoy him for however long he plays for the football club.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry there. I was just doing a wee tweet for the
That's
Celtic
right.
Way. I think it's worth discussing that and really celebrating that as well. The fact that Celtic are going to be signing a Belgian international. You know, a Belgian international midfield. Look at the company he'll be getting in there. I didn't mean that pun as in Vincent Company because he's long retired. But Kevin De Bruyne, Amadou Onana. You know, there's so many that you can name. Other players in the team, Wout Faes, Yuri Tielemans, and Arne Engels is in there. So that's exciting.
Again, to me, Ryan, it's another statement of fact that coming to Celtic enhances your chances of playing at international football level. You know, it doesn't decrease them. There's no negative effect here. You know, people point to Matt O'Reilly should have gone to the Euros. It was a travesty that he didn't. Signs for Brighton and then all of a sudden gets called up, but it's a new manager, isn't it? A new regime. Sadly, he's out injured now. Real shame. But, you know, being at Celtic's not going to be detrimental to your international career. You know, other people will say Kyogo. You just get certain managers that don't like certain, not so much don't like certain players, but just don't feel that they want to play a particular player in his position. But being at Celtic, you're playing in the top level of club competition, the best club competition in world football. So it's always going to be a plus. There ain't no negative with signing for Celtic in terms of your international prospects for any player that comes to the club, and I think they know that too. It's a great pathway into international football. Cameron Carter-Vickers earned a recall after a few years in the wilderness with America, didn't he? So it's a win-win for a lot of guys. It's clearly a win for Engels. He's now in the Belgium squad and he will now be playing for Celtic in the Champions League. This Champions League phase, the inaugural Champions League phase. It's an exciting time for that young man.
Very much so. And he'll be on top of the world. He'll be looking to really confirm it all with an appearance in a Glasgow Derby win. We'll talk about this Glasgow Derby, why don't we, for 10 minutes before we finish off. I'm sure that the boys tonight, you, Joe and Hamish for the second hour, will be discussing the Glasgow Derby in a bit more detail. That'll be live from 9 o'clock tonight until 11. They're going to be doing a live deadline day show. Hope the yellow ties will be getting searched in the wardrobe. Don't want to mention Tony's wardrobe too much. No,
I think I threw my ties out when I left.
It could be a wee job. It could be a wee job for Clip Art to put yellow ties on you all today.
Yes,
that could be my work for this afternoon.
I think yes. I'll leave that in your capable hands, Ryan.
Yeah. So it's just a small matter, as I said yesterday, Tony, of a Glasgow Derby at the weekend, Celtic versus Rangers at Celtic Park. 60,000 Celtic fans are expected to don on or go to Celtic Park and cheer on their team against their greatest rivals. What are your feelings just now about the game? You know, it's 2 days out. I think all focus just now has been on the transfer window and the Champions League tie. But as soon as that 11 o'clock signal or that 11 o'clock bell chimes, it'll all be eyes on the Glasgow Derby and what Celtic need to do in that game.
I've been thankful for that, Ryan, that they had the Champions League draw and the countdown to the August 30th deadline, because you haven't spent days focusing or fixating on this football match. You can, as you say, after 11 o'clock tonight, but it's been great. There's been no days and days of build-up and getting your nerves frayed. So I'm glad there's been other distractions. I think that Celtic are getting in the best possible in rude health, as you would say. I guess it's the phrase, isn't it? The best possible build-up to on and off the park. They're getting in a real high chance to go 5 points clear of your rivals at this early stage in the season. It's not insurmountable, no, but it's certainly the one to lay out the marker, isn't it? The statement, as they say. And, I think we're at a moment in time where Celtic and Rangers, Celtic have the better players. They're in a better situation all round, both on and off the park. That doesn't necessarily translate or equate to winning, on Sunday. But I think Celtic supporters have a good feeling about themselves, a good feeling about their players, a good feeling about their manager, and a good feeling about the way they're playing, approaching this one. So there'll be confidence there, Ryan. But if anybody's going to give you a smack in the face and a bloody nose, it's your rivals. Never underestimate your rivals. The manager wouldn't let that happen anyway. But if you're looking at the two sides just now, you have to say that Celtic could win this match with possibly a bit to spare, but you have to turn up, you have to earn the right, and you have to go into it with the frame of mind that, as you spoke before, that yeah, it's Rangers, but you get the same 3 points for beating Rangers as you did for beating St Mirren last week and Hibs the week before and Kilmarnock on the opening day. So don't do anything different. I don't think you'd approach it in any other way. It's just hyped up because it's a derby match, but the manager's all in the preparation, isn't he? And I don't think it's arrogance or cockiness or misplaced, but I think if you canvassed every Celtic supporter right now, they're feeling good about themselves, they're feeling good about their team, they're feeling good about the man who's leading their team, and I think they're confident in the fact that the manager has a game plan for Sunday and the Celtic can execute it. But you're playing against a side who, like your team, they want to make a statement as well of their own. They want to come and show that they can play with no fans. They've not coped. They've struggled with that since it's came in. But, you know, I just think the better teams usually win these games, Ryan. And I think Celtic at this moment in time are the better team with the better players. That's the way I look at it.
That should be the way it goes. Fingers crossed that is the way it goes. These games, anything can happen. I don't want to use the cliche form goes out the window because it usually doesn't. Form usually doesn't go out the window. The best team does win most of the time, or the best team on the day does win. That's just the way football is. But you're just hoping that Celtic turn up and do the business and go 5 points clear at this early stage would be, you know, a really, really good position, especially concerning the fact that Celtic will have their first Saturday at 3 o'clock game straight after the international break against Hearts. You're already looking forward. I don't want to look forward too much. You're wanting to play Hearts at this moment in time, especially at home, and get just accumulate points. I want Celtic to be focusing on the Champions League this year. I want them to focus on the league, of course, but I want the main focus to be on the Champions League and seeing if they can push forward. The league will take care of itself if they can just keep those levels up, because we've seen that they control the narrative early doors. They score early goals. They've got the players there. They've got players that can interchange as well. Once you add Engels into the situation, you've got Paulo Bernardo that can swap in and swap out. Hatate, Cal McGregor, Odin Thiago Holm as well, who looks as if he might get more of a run in the team this season because everybody around him seems to be going except him. So that's a good sign too.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of moving pieces at the moment, but they're moving pieces in a good way. If they start it off with a good win on Sunday against your greatest rivals, then I think it sets up the rest of the season really, really nicely. Puts that immediate pressure on the rivals who will be gunning for the league this season. You know, as much as people are talking about they're not the best side currently, you know, for their supporters, they want to win the league every single season. That is the aim at the start of the season. So it's all about Celtic putting down a marker, especially at home, in front of all their fans. It will be a raucous atmosphere on Sunday, even more raucous if new players come onto the park in the second half. Fingers crossed that can be the case. I just think there's so much positivity going in just now. I think the players will come out on that pitch on Sunday, you know, desperate to make an impact and desperate to make an impression. It's one more game until the international break. They're going to go that extra 1 or 2% to get the result that they crave.
I think they'll be champing at the bit. Both sides will be champing at the bit. You know, but you've watched enough of both teams this season. You know who, as you say, that you know who the form team are. Rangers got a good result against Ross County last weekend. They're coming in with a spring in their step, and you know they're going to have to do something different. There are players that you're going to have to watch. Cyril Dessers has been scoring goals. That was his big fault, wasn't it? Or the major criticism of Dessers, so he's going to have to be watched. Callum McGregor's got a new challenge up against Connor Barron, who the Rangers supporters are telling you is the real deal, and he's made some difference to their midfield. So we shall see. These are things that you've heard before from the Rangers camp, and you take it in your stride, and the manager will take all that in his stride, and he'll have worked on stuff, Ryan, even since losing Matt O'Reilly, probably accounted for that there was a Celtic team that would play Rangers without Matt O'Reilly in it. So, he's big on detail, he's big on preparation. It'll have been as seamless as possible this week, even with the toing and froing of new players coming in. And again, I say the fact that some of those players might get to experience some game time, and that I would like them to, but they'll only experience game time in that if Celtic are in a position where they can afford to let these guys loose on the field. First and foremost, you have to go and win the game, and but that's the backdrop to it. So as I say, people can argue the toss about how good Ross County were last week, but you're coming in on the back of a 6-0 win. Your rivals are coming into this on the back of a 6-0 win. Of course, they're going to be buoyed by that. They're going to be confident. They're going to feel, again, if you believe in these law of averages things and all of that, that the luck has to turn at some point. But it's up to Celtic to turn that screw again. Say, nah, not this week, not this time, not again. And then, themselves come out the traps quickly. And, that's been the hallmark of Celtic's games this season, Ryan. We have looked at each other after 20 minutes and said, this is effectively over as a contest. And I think it's been a big feature of Celtic's play this season. They've scored goals early doors, and if they do it again on Sunday, and you wouldn't put it past them, then it could be another comfortable afternoon for them. But I caveat that by saying you're playing Rangers. Kasper Schmeichel had one save to make all season. He'll have more saves to make on Sunday. That's for a fact. He'll know he's in a game on Sunday.
I think, well, definitely myself, I think a few others would agree that they would rather Rangers were coming into the game with their tails up rather than, feeling down in the dumps. I think that can invoke a false sense of security with teams. And Philippe Clement has came out and said that he is going to attack from the start. That should be music to Celtic's ears, because they can hit them on the counter, or they can just, while in possession, carve them open. You're hoping that can be the case at the weekend. If you're looking for even more Derby preview content, it is coming. We have done a special episode in a new location all about the Glasgow Derby, the key battlegrounds, the managers, previous encounters with Rangers. All of that will be available at some point tomorrow in a very special preview video that's coming out, featuring myself, Tony and Joe, the three of us talking in public, in person, about the upcoming Glasgow Derby. So that's something to really look forward to. Keep your eyes peeled on the YouTube channel for that coming out. It's definitely one not to be missed. Tony, I know you'll be on. I know that you'll be on later on tonight, and you'll discuss everything. You might even regurgitate everything that you've said already. So that'd be absolutely fine, because you've got 2 hours to kill. You will be joined by Joe at 9 o'clock, and then Hamish will join from 10 to 11. So it'll be a 2-man show for the first hour, and then a 3-man show for the second hour. Everybody can look forward to that. I will make a link for everybody to join, so that they can maybe even get in early, grab a beverage, grab some food, and enjoy the end of the transfer deadline day with the Celtic Way. Tony, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think Jackie Dillon's summing up lots of the feelings of the Celtic supporters. What a week to be a Celtic. She's saying, yes, it's not been the worst week, has it, Jackie? Appreciate that comment. And appreciate nearly 1,300 people joining us live. These are crazy numbers that we're getting these days, guys. We really, really do appreciate it. If, as Ryan said earlier, if you want to support us more, just that little bit more, you can join the YouTube members channel, Ryan. $2.99 a month. You've got early video access, you've got priority comments and exclusive members chat function. We would appreciate that if you did that, and thanks to everybody who's taken that offer up in the recent weeks that it's been going. So appreciate that, Ryan, don't we, very much?
Yes, if you're on desktop, I know that it's quite difficult to do it if you're on a mobile phone or a mobile device, but if you're on desktop, you're on a computer, click that join button and that'll get you through and you'll become a YouTube member. And thank you to our YouTube members who have already signed up for the service. We will endeavour to bring you even more content in the days and weeks ahead. Getting international breaks, we've got plenty to fill up between now until the return of Celtic. But there's a big match at the weekend, Celtic versus Rangers, Glasgow Derby. It's going to be a big one. Fingers crossed Celtic get the result that they want. Fingers crossed that they get the 2 players in, 2 players plus in. Maybe a surprise in there would be good as well. And we can talk about that Champions League draw as well tonight. That's something that's very, very exciting indeed. Looking forward to covering that home and away this season. Tony, thank you very much for joining me this morning. We will be back on later on this evening for the Transfer Deadline Day show. Until then, guys, have a very good rest of your Transfer Deadline Day. And yeah, we'll see you later on. Thanks, guys.